while Putin continues to prolong the conflict, I could see a construct in which, while the talks are going on, the president again begins to surge weapons to Ukraine and allows them to use the longer range artillery, such as the ATACMS and so on, to hit well inside of Russia.
Now let's go back to that meeting in Paris. The representatives of Ukraine are there, France, of course, Britain, Germany, and this time America is represented by the Secretary of State Marco Rubio and the Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. They are talking peace, not necessarily making much progress towards peace in Ukraine, but talking about peace. So what will it take? Let's talk to Gordon Sondland now. Welcome to the programme, the former Donald Trump ambassador to the European Union in the president's first term. Hello to you, Gordon.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you see anything in these talks in Paris to be optimistic about? The president's envoy, Steve Witkoff, he has ideas. He's been talking them through. We know this with the Kremlin, the idea of Ukraine ceding sovereignty over ground that is now occupied by Russia, and some of it which is not occupied by the Russians. Ukraine says no. Their allies in Europe say no alongside them. It's a deadlock. So what future is there for that plan on the part of the envoy and the president's team?
Well, I think the president is starting to lose patience with Putin because he gave Putin all of the leash that Putin would have deserved. And at this point, while Putin continues to prolong the conflict, I could see a construct in which, while the talks are going on, the president again begins to surge weapons to Ukraine and allows them to use the longer range artillery, such as the ATACMS and so on, to hit well inside of Russia. So while Putin is taking his sweet time, he's going to have to defend territory that Ukraine heretofore hasn't even hit. That would be certainly my recommendation if I were still in the administration, because all of the time that goes by right now is inuring to Russia's benefit.
So that would be your recommendation. Do you expect that President Trump will follow that suggestion? Do you think he will now surge, as you put it, weapons towards Ukraine to help them in their fight with Russia? And what about the president's threat, which he uttered very clearly out loud not so long ago, to take strong action by way of sanctions against Russia, against Russian oil, for example? No sign of that yet.
I think he wants to nail down the deal with Ukraine first, and if the Russians don't play ball, then I think all options are on the table. Zelensky has been, playing a little bit of cat and mouse on the rare earth minerals deal and a few other things. And I think that the discussions in Paris now are going to try to nail down a lot of the loose ends that have been discussed but haven't been agreed to. But it's clear that the Russians need to have pressure put on them to avoid continuing to destroy urban areas and killing women and children, which they're doing now. And the only way to do that is Putin isn't going to do a ceasefire. What he's going to do is he's either going to do a deal at the point of a gun or he's not. And I think Trump now realizes that.
Why, Ambassador, do you believe that President Trump realizes that, has come to that realization? Have you had any indication from inside the White House there has been a hardening of the president's position? And we're going to hear about that anytime imminently?
He's been public about it. He said he's pissed off at Putin. That Putin, he's given Putin the leave to save face, and Trump understands the importance of saving face because he always wants to save face himself when he pivots or changes his mind. There's always a reason why he did it. He never says, I'm wrong, I should have done this instead of that. There's always a face-saving part of it, which leaders like to save face because they don't want to be embarrassed. And he's given Putin every off-ramp possible, and Putin hasn't accepted. So now it's time to surge again.
Okay, no, indeed. And Ambassador, it is one thing to say, as the president has said, that he's angry with Vladimir Putin. It's quite another to actually take action. Have you any reason to think, or do you expect we're going to see that escalation of action on the president's part anytime imminently? Have you any indication of that, or is this just something you hope to see?
Do you really think that Donald Trump is slow to take action, given all of the action he's taken in about the 90 days he's been president? I mean, it's been unprecedented, the amount of action he's taken all around the world on
But
a number of
forgive me, Ambassador, he has not been quick to take action by way of extra sanctions against Vladimir Putin. He has aired the possibility of taking that action, but so far there's been no sign of that. Am I wondering, will we see that?
It goes back to my earlier comment that he was trying to give Putin a face-saving way out of this. And I think that period of time is now quickly up. And he's going to likely pull the noose very hard, starting economically and then militarily, if that doesn't do any good.
Okay, and is that what you are? Forgive me, I'm just very, very curious as to that is your forecast. Do you have? You won't give me your sources, obviously. I wouldn't expect that, but is that your indication from some of those high up in the White House?
That's what I speculate is going to happen.
Your speculation, okay. Now, you tell us that President Zelensky has been, I don't know, maybe playing a difficult game as far as he's concerned with the contract for the exploitation of minerals in Ukraine with America, with the president. Just a word more on that, because you'll be very well aware that when it comes to that contract, that's been described as very, very one-sided. Some critics have described it as even larcenous on the American side. And it comes with no security guarantees, no promise of any physical security for the coalition of the willing, as it's been called, or anywhere else. Can that be called tough on Zelensky's side, Ambassador?
Well, I think what Zelensky wants, which is a blanket indemnity from the U.S., militarily speaking, of course, not financially.
Yeah.
And that's not in the cards, because what that is, that ensures that the U.S. will be in a war very soon. I think what Zelensky should be looking at, though, is the results of thousands and thousands of Americans on the ground in Ukraine, and I'm speaking of American business people, not soldiers, doing a multitude of deals, not just the rare earth minerals, but investment banking, capital projects. And then Trump has even a more moral authority to go to Putin and say, we now have, pick a number, 50,000 Americans in Ukraine. Yeah. Don't you dare hurt one of them, or it's going to be a problem for you, a military problem for you.
Yes.
And that's far better security guarantee than an Article 5 type of guarantee.
Yeah. Look, I'm not an expert on mineral extraction, but as far as I vaguely understand it, the mineral reserves of Ukraine are, well, they're still very largely an unknown quantity. We don't quite know exactly where they are. We don't know what quantity they're in, and the process of finding that out and then getting those minerals to the ground and in a usable form, that will take many, many years. It would seem to me to be the idea of getting tens of thousands of Americans on the ground in Ukraine is a very distant prospect. And as for that being a security guarantee, well, it seems that America is keen now, well, as soon as possible, to do business inside Russia, let alone with Ukraine. So does that amount to a security guarantee?
I think America wants to do business in both. And what Zelensky should be doing is, yes, you're correct. It will take quite a while to set up the physical infrastructure for exploiting the rare earth minerals. But, there's no reason why Goldman Sachs and Bank of America can't be opening offices in every major Ukrainian city and doing business there today, and having Trump tell Putin, any of our people get hurt, all bets are off with you. And that's a far more dangerous prospect for Putin than having some kind of an amorphous security guarantee, knowing that he might harm an American business person in Ukraine.
Yeah, I don't want to sound unduly skeptical, let alone cynical. But I mean, it could be argued America had interests in Crimea when Russia went in there. A business presence isn't necessarily a barrier to some sort of attempt to take ground in itself, is it?
Well, that's because Obama was president, not Trump.
And you consider that if America had a big business presence in Ukraine and there was some sort of Russian move, that would result effectively, Ambassador, in a declaration of war by America?
No, it would be a declaration of war by Russia.
Which would lead
America.
To war with America.
Exactly.
All right, now
that's the kind of security guarantee. And along with America, I should add that Europe should be all over Ukraine as well. In other words, while this is being set up to exploit the rare earth minerals, the Europeans and the Americans should make a very, very visible show of bringing a lot of people back into Ukraine and telling Putin not one hair on their head better be harmed.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Well, look, that is a clear statement of your view, which is what I was looking for. All I could really look for. I mean, hypothetically, if we then go down the route that you're mapping there of a business relationship between Russia and the United States, it's easy to imagine, Ambassador, isn't it, that that a lot of Europe would not wish to follow you down that path. That would lead to a very clear split between America and Europe. Does that concern you?
Well, it only concerns me if Russia can't be bound by certain behavior. And, implicit in that would be that Russia would agree, for example, to move in our direction and away from China. I don't see us loosening sanctions or doing any appreciable business with Russia until they give up the China connection. That's got to be the quid pro quo here.
Yeah. I can see that as being part of American thinking. And just a last question on this. The president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has said just in the last 24 hours or so that she considers, I'm pretty much paraphrasing, she said that the West, as it's been understood, was dead. There were now two entities, Europe and America, with completely divergent interests. The West is dead. What would you say to the president of the European Commission?
Oh, I think that's unfortunate comment by President von der Leyen, who I have a great deal of regard for personally as well as professionally. I don't believe at all the West is dead. I believe these discussions with the EU regarding trade have been missing the point. What President Trump has wanted from 2017 is this wasn't really a tariff issue as much as a non-tariff barrier issue. Our manufacturers, our farmers go to Europe and try to sell them products, and there's one rule after another that you have to comply with, which makes it almost impossible. It's almost like they don't believe, for example, that our cars are safe to drive, yet they come to the United States, they rent a car from Hertz or Budget and have no problem. But yet when those cars go to Europe, there's something wrong with them. Same with our tomatoes and our chicken, and the litany goes on and on. If they would just drop all of that and we drop ours and try it for a couple of years, see what happens. If it doesn't work, they can snap back to the status quo. That's really the issue.